Great, I think so. Everything seems to be working. Fooled you, Rachel. Hello, nice to see everybody here this morning. Not intimidating at all to start off after all of that, but I'm very excited. So I'll admit that a little bit that this journey from Monktoberfest for me this year started on July 7th when I got this email from Steven, which I was very excited about because I have been lucky enough to get this more than once. But unfortunately for this part, I couldn't remember exactly what this was talking about, and I was a little bit sure it might have been a mistake. So thankfully, sometimes I set myself up for success by going back and actually asking myself to receive things from Google Forms when I submit them. And I had a memory that sometimes instead of expressing my feelings by talking to people or journaling or going on social media like normal folks, I like to rant to Steven via his CFPs. Everybody does this here, right? Like you just submit stuff and then you expect he'll absorb and process those emotions for you. This one happened to be submitted, it was the only one in the last year, which was a big surprise, but this one was actually submitted on October 7th of last year. And if you remember at all, Monktoberfest was actually Wednesday through Friday, the 2nd through the 3rd, so apparently this, whatever I wanted to get out into the world, was the Monday afterwards. Which is fine. I'm sure whatever I thought of then was also going to be a good idea now, but I did have to ask myself, what exactly did I sign myself up for? And if you know me at all, you'll know this is a frequently asked question in my life. What did I sign myself up for this time? So it's not the first time this has happened to me, not just through Google Forms, but in general. I don't know what everybody else did in 2020, what kind of a year you had. I tried baking, I tried walking, I tried the comfort, cozy things. Those do not work for me. So I also jumped in line to buy a new pair of roller skates because there was something that seemed very exciting about what was going on of like reclaiming space through the roller skating community. Also with this was a good reminder for me of the 20-year burning desire to try a new sport that I had not tried, but I had watched from afar for a while. So at the ripe age of sometime in my 40s, I also decided in 2022 to respond to a different Google form. This one was to sign up for a boot camp. The exciting thing here was I wasn't quite sure they were actually going to write back to me because I'm pretty sure in the boot camp I said, I can't really stand up on my skates and I can't stop at all. And thankfully for me, the community was at such a point, they were like, so excited to see you. See you Tuesday, please pay here. This is where you send the check for the boot camp registration. And at the end of the boot camp, I remember the lead trainer they went through everybody else. So they bring you in and they have this short conversation of how you did and what the next steps are and how you're gonna join the league. And they brought me in at the very end and my now friend Snatch McCracken looked me dead in the eye with like, I can only describe now as the Gen Z stare and said, your plow stops are not effective. And it did break my heart a little bit, but I also knew I was like, okay, that's something to work on. And I did. I stuck around. I think they thought they were going to get rid of me. I don't think they realized the kind of person I am when I decide I like something. So I have actually been skating with Green Mountain Roller Derby since 2022. And of course, when they had a board of directors call, I said, sure, that sounds like fun. And then starting this year, I actually took over as the league president for the board of directors. My skate name is Kate Ambush. My short name is Ambush, so actually that's more used to what I'm getting called in the world, which has been a very exciting journey. And if you hear from me, that's what I like to talk about. So, 2025, new world. This is actually the only headshot I've ever had taken in my life. Any shot you've seen of me professionally is a selfie of me with like some background in the world. They also try to get me to smile, and I was like, I don't smile. This is me smiling. So what did I sign up for myself today? It's really what I signed you up today, which is, hello monks, welcome to frickin' roller derby. So I'm not talking about tech, I'm not talking about open source, I'm gonna be talking about roller derby all day long. Rachel, I think this is just a birthday gift for you, perhaps. So what exactly is roller derby? So roller derby itself is a full contact sport. It's on an oval track. It's 2 teams with 5 roller skating players per team. Roller derby comes in many forms and in many sets. And there's still a shared history in global culture. I want you all to understand a little bit more. I feel also this is like a little bit of payback for how much football and baseball I've had to sit through my life. So now like, welcome to the sports ball talk that's gonna kick off the day with no ball. So brief history of Derby in the before times. It actually originally started in 1935 as a Depression-era sport. So at the time, there was a ton of roller skating going on in the United States. There was also a ton of marathons things. So people would skate until basically everybody dropped and passed out, and the last one standing would win the marathon. So there were a lot of promoters. They created this as kind of a commercial sport or an entertainment cycle. It went through a lot of boom and bust tracks at the time. And then it kind of died off for a little while. Honestly, bank tracks are really expensive. It's expensive to carry around. So this big amphitheater type thing that you have to truck along with you. It's like a carnival. That actually came back up in Austin in 2001. I know there's some Austin friends here. So that was the revival started in Austin in 2001. And then a few years later, again, realizing how expensive these tracks are, someone came up with a rule set that basically fits in a basketball court, which is much easier to get folks onboarded with because there's more basketball courts in the country than there are flat spaces to set up a carnival-like bank track setting. Now, you might have seen this in popular culture. There's a movie called Whip It, which stars Drew Barrymore and Elliot Page and Juliette Lewis. Margot Robbie plays this in the very beginning in Birds of Prey, and there's actually a lot of roller derby skaters that are in these scenes. This all had a lot of momentum, and then came the pandemic in 2019. So there was a huge momentum. There were a lot of tracks. There was discussions of are we going to go into the Olympics? And then everything shut down. Roller derby is actually a super COVID cautious community. So a lot of things dropped. A lot of organizations lost their leases, which meant that there was no longer space to be able to practice in, and that's a pretty big deal. Competition is easier to get things for, but space is really hard. So there's a big recovery period between 2020 and really through 2024 and 2025. And this is when I joined everything. So I don't even know what it was like previously. When some folks were starting to get on the verge of getting paid, they were getting sponsorships. The only roller derby I know is the one that's picking itself basically up out of a ditch and figuring out what do we want now. I'll come back to that. We might go to the Olympics and what it actually means for roller derby now, because that's a different piece for WFDA. I will also say we have found some community with the tennis organization, because frickin' pickleball takes up. I told you about loss of practice spaces. If you know what community centers and organizations have turned into, indoor skate parks are going away. We are losing so many multi-purpose courts because of pickleball and because of the industrial complex that is pickleball in the United States, in the world. So if you care about community sports, I gotta say, pickleball, if it gets you out and gets you moving, I have no hate for you, but I would like you to consider what single use of one space does to a community to be able to broaden it for bigger access. I'm gonna sell this as shirts. I know it's no product pitches, but I'm gonna sell it as shirts. So we're back. This is very exciting. So in the 2024 in Portland, Oregon, if you are in Portland, Oregon, or going to Portland, Oregon, there's the Rose City Rollers, which has an amazing community. It's huge. It's probably one of the biggest in the world. They actually hosted and won the 2024 WFDA Global Championships. You can watch all those on YouTube. They're fantastic. There was also a World Cup last year where teams didn't fly into the United States. They flew all over the world, actually into Innsbruck, Austria, held a really big organization. The United States did quite well as well, because it's kind of the home of roller derby, but also one of our former skaters, Lady Macbeth, skated with the Wales team, which was very exciting. Nerd alert, if you like complex rules and ranking systems, roller derby is your jam. There is a global ranking system scale. There are stats that we take every game. The rule book I can't even print off because it's so complicated. Someone has to print it off from the officials every time. It's a lot of fun. But who's in charge of all this? I've said before, this is kind of an amateur hour. This is also an amateur hour, self-run organization. And the reality is that roller derby across the world is community-owned, community-run, and we set our own community rules. So community-owned, what does that look like? It means that you paint the signs and then store them and then put them out. So again, in the before, there was a really big push around skater-owned and skater-run, and that really did come from the Austin culture. I feel like since then, there's been a wider expansion that you don't have to be skating to be in the community. So it has expanded a little bit more, which I actually really like, because I think that emphasizes that everybody is welcome and can find a place. Also, there were a lot of LLCs before. It was treated as like an entertainment or kind of a GM culture. Now it's much more like we've moved into not-for-profits, not because we're not making any profits off of this. Also, from big venues, like really getting big arenas to now having like any space, please. If it's our team has practiced on like tiny paved little like pavilions in a park in the community because it's the only flat space we can find. We get very creative. But also community run can mean it looks very polished sometimes. And that's because, quite frankly, for our team, we have a really good marketing director. They are fantastic. Armageddon has done a ton in the past few years to make us look like we are professionals at what we do, including reaching out to Vermont Public, talking with public media stations, making very nice posters. So there are folks who, like, if you see mine, they don't let it go past Discord. Like I will give them something. I'm like, here, I made something. Then they very kindly explain to me why that design style is not going to make it past branding. But it also means that for our team, we have ramped up from this like, I showed up barely in skates because quite frankly, they needed the money, to being able to host 2 home bouts a year. So now we can host these kind of bigger events. We're one of the last teams in New England that we run about 300 to 400 ticket sales per event, which is pretty decent for the space we're having it in. And then in terms of like filling the space, you'll see these are just my roles in the league. So again, I joined in 2022. By 2023, I was head of HR, admin, secretary on the board of directors, in training committee, in Bout Prod. I was the Discord wizard. That's odd. Keeper of all digital keys, website admin, nonprofit convert team, and then slowly have decreased over time, not because I have any less or more time to contribute, but because we have actually brought more people in and handed things out. And that's a nice sign of success, is that the community fills the space. It's not me filling the space. Including that means that my job as board president sometimes is to do things like wash the damn jerseys because they stink. Making sure that we have everything we need for track day. I have a washing machine, which means that's now the community washing machine. I make buttons because sometimes the buttons need to be made. We have folks that come volunteer with us. They're called hired guns, which is also fun. It's like inviting your best friend's best friend to come have a sleepover with you, only you hit each other. So I really enjoy that as well. We try to celebrate that for folks who come volunteer with us. And again, I talked about like we are our community, it's our rules. So, you know, some people have asked like, what's with the names? I mean, I like my name, Kate Ambush. It feels very affirming to have. But the reality is 2 things. One, civilian names are super boring, right? People ask you your name, you're like, yeah, that's the thing I have. If I haven't had time to take ownership of it and adjust it to something else, or I make it feel more like me, then that's okay. Part of the reason we have derby names actually does come from the drag community. So when Austin was resetting like what roller derby was in early 2001 to 2004, they loved that the drag community in the space had an idea of self-identity, had an idea of ownership. And so they introduced that as part of the sport, and we carry it on. Also, it's really fun. You just choose your own adventure. People on my team have names like Fox and Rad Rover and Power Trip, Snatch McCracken. I really like Lady Ibashi. That's actually a reference to Ghibli Studio. So if you don't know that, she gets very excited every time somebody notices it. And then also Pope John Paul III, who is our coach. So we have a pope, it's just not the other one. Who gets to play roller derby? Again, our community, our rules. So the real reality is if you want to play roller derby, you can play roller derby. There's a league for you. You can do anything out of part of these. Women's Flat Track Derby Association has one set with one kind of gender rules. Men's Roller Derby Association has a different set with a different kind of rules. Junior Roller Derby Association has yet another set with another kind of rules, and that's age limits around that. Texas Roller Derby is actually banked track roller derby. It's a lot of fun to go watch when you're down in Texas. They have a different set of rules. But if you want to play, you can play. You just got to find a league and be willing to do the work as a part of that. The interesting question of this that comes up for me now is like, who gets to play in what we call women's sports? And so for roller derby, again, I talked about WFDA. That's the organization that we're a part of. Who gets to play in women's sports in general has a history. I would recommend the Tested podcast if you want to learn more about this. It was released in the last year. WFDA made, so remember I talked about we were going to go to the Olympics. WFDA made an intentional decision to break from Olympic-style rules around policing athletes' gender and gender conformity and expanded their idea of like, if you want to play in WFDA, here's the people we allow. If you look like this, you're welcome. If you look like this, you're welcome. You tell us. We're not going to We're not going to ask. This is you getting to define who you are and who it's open to. So that actually started in 2015, and then we expanded that in 2025. The TLDR is that any marginalized gender can skate on a WFDDA roster. All genders are welcome as volunteers and employees, but if you want to skate and you identify in this group, we would love to have you. So now I honestly don't know how much time I have left, so we're going to count on Steven to give me some cues whenever I'm getting too close. Roller Derby 101. I have had folks here who I adore ask me, like, I don't know exactly what's going on. So now you're going to know what's going on. So the words explanation of this is that there is a bout. Each bout or competition is played as 2 30-minute periods. So it's like sitting through 2 Monktoberfest talks, but you also get an intermission. And you do get beer the whole time, usually, too. So it is kind of like going to Monktoberfest, just like one after the other. Each period consists of multiple jams. Those can be up to 2 minutes each. So it's a very intense period of time. You get like a 30 seconds rest in between, but you don't really care about that. The teams can field up to 4 blockers, and then there's 1 jammer per jam. The jammers are the only one who can score points. Everybody following so far? Do you like complex rule sets? This is the sport for you. There are many, many rules that we have, and we have to take rules. We actually have to take rules tests annually to continue to be able to play competitively. So you have to have passed a rule set on the latest rules within the last year to competitively play against other teams to make sure people remember what they're doing. There are rules about legal target zones. That's like where you can get hit. Notice the spine and the neck are not on there. There are legal blocking zones, which is where you are allowed to prevent people from moving in a certain direction. There is only one derby direction, and that is widdershins, or counterclockwise. So you can only safely move in one direction. If you try to move in the other direction, you can skate that way, but if you have contact with anybody that way, you will get a penalty and go to the penalty box. There is a penalty box. I have successfully made through 1 game in the last few years without getting a single penalty, and it was my pride and joy. The last one I got 1. I thought I was going to get through it again, but I didn't. If you are a person who likes pictures, here are some pictures to explain this better to you. So, like I said, 4 blockers. 1 is the pivot. They have a stripe on their head. The jammer always has a star on their head. They're the only ones who can score points. So as you see this go around, what happens is you all line up. There's this line. There's a jammer line. People line up. The jammers are behind that. The blockers are in front. The blockers or the jammers try to go through the blockers. Once they get past the other team once, they go around. They're on what's called the scoring pass. Once they go past the first pass and they're now on the scoring pass, they are eligible to score points. So, like I said, it's kind of interesting because you're going around and around and around, but you're really just trying to break through the other side as hard as you can and score as many of those as possible. You get a point for every person you pass. So how much time do we have, Stephen? I got time. Cool. Okay, I need 10 volunteers, please. Like, if you feel comfortable moving, you will not hit each other. You will just have to like walk around a little bit. Thank you so much. You can just come on up. Come on up. This will be fantastic. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'm gonna have 5 people over here. We're gonna have 5 people over here. And if there's more than 5, I'll just make you sit on the sidelines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we will self-organize. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's fine.
I'll be a cheerleader.
You'll be a cheerleader. Okay, great. Okay, so if we say this is like the jammer line, I'm going to be 1 from each team back here. So Julia, you stay. You 4 come over here. And then Heidi, you're going to go with Julia, and then you 4 are going to come here. Okay, so generally we like to move against this in derby direction, so the jammers will be coming this way. So you 2 are going to stand here like this. You're going to try and face them roughly like here, and you're kind of going to go, we're going to say you're on their team, you're kind of like roughly here. You are here, roughly here. Okay, yeah, perfect. Okay, now you 3 are going to do roughly the same. So you're going to come over here, Margaret. You're going to turn around. You'll be right here. You're going to come here, and then you're actually going to turn here this way and go here. And now you can go ahead. You place your arms kind of here like a triangle. Cool. Yeah, you're a triangle. You're a triangle here. Sweet. Okay, awesome. So these are the butts. This is the brace. This person is called the dangle. Brace, butts, dangle. Yeah, this unit is trying to prevent the opposite team from coming through. Don't move. Do not prevent it. You 2, the jammers are going to come this way, and there's sides on either side, right? So this team is trying to prevent Julia from getting through, but Julia is wild. So she's going to come over here, and she's going to move past with her little star. The first time, she gets the jammer. She's special now. She can call the jam off, which means she has control of the game. And then Sarah got a little behind, but now is coming up. Coming up, coming up, coming up. Just you just keep going forward. No one's going to stop you. They're not going to hit you this time. They're not allowed. They're not qualified. Now their job is to go as many times as possible afterwards. So let's say Julie went all the way around the room. You don't have to do it. Now, when Julia comes back. Oh wait, I mixed up Sarah. That was actually Heidi was supposed to go through. We'll make pretend. Heidi, you go here. You're the angle now.
I'm good angle.
Now, as Julia's coming through, come on up here. Let's go through again. Now she gets points 1, 2, 3, 4 because she passed it down. Before the next jammer comes through, do this. Really big. Really big. They have to see all the way in the back. Her jam's called off. Officials are done. She gets 4 points. The other team gets 0 points, and then we move on to the next jam. You may take your seats. Thank you very much, volunteers. I appreciate that. Cool. So I can explain more. There's a lot more that goes into it. But basic gist is that you're trying to get through and get through as best as you can. And again, nobody gets hurt. Everybody has fun. That's the general goal. So if you want to learn more, there are videos you can watch. I'm not going to play this now. It takes a while. I mean, it's only a minute, but it takes a while. Lots of videos online. You can see them all over the place. You can listen to podcasts. If you like listening to things and that's your thing, there's many podcasts now that talk about this. I actually learned a lot of the rules through Overreactor. They have a podcast that like goes through the whole rules book and reads it out loud, but then explains it to you. It's what an official does. There is a podcast about roller derby on the Sounds Like a Cult podcast. So it talks about the cult of roller derby. Again, if you like history and conspiracy theory, not really conspiracy theory, but in a fun way. That way doesn't like hurt my heart. It actually is quite funny. And then I would also like to give a special shout out to Coming Hot Into the Box with Slice and Carnage. They actually came down. Slice skated with us last weekend, and Carnage was one of our officials. They skate down in, I lost the name. They skate locally in one of the leagues down in Connecticut. There's actually a bunch of roller derby leagues in the area. Speaking of teams. So depending on where you're at, there probably is a roller derby league somewhere near you. These are ones around us. Bay State Brawlers is actually in Massachusetts. Monadnock is in New Hampshire. Twin State is in New Hampshire. New Hampshire, there's a lot in New Hampshire. We all get bored. It's wintertime. Vermont, Twin State and Green Mountain Roller Derby are kind of the 2 leagues in Vermont. We're at different ends of the state. You got Casco Bay right here in Maine. So if you want to go check out good roller derby, Casco Bay is a fantastic roller derby league to go check out. They hold nice tournaments. They're also just a good group of people. You can find out more about these and WFDA leagues and on the MRDA leagues. So now, actually, after the demo, you can get when I say that roller derby is the weirdest game of Red Rover ever, because you're just trying to get past people and not hurt them. So as a last bit of talking about roller derby as best I can, I would encourage you all to support homegrown, locally sourced community sports. Consider where your money, attention, and heart goes and who benefits from that. Also, again, not a product plug, but if you like us, you can buy our stuff. You can buy a ticket. As my friend Breaker says, you can buy a ticket and you don't have to show up. Just buy the ticket. That will help support us. If you want to know how to make a donation, just buy a ticket. You can volunteer. There's support on socials. But in general, we are making the rules for the people who we love and who we want to be there and be a part of. And that's, I think, what we are all here for and what we want to continue to build with each other. So if that sounds like your jam, even if you don't want to jam, come join roller derby.